Good morning. It's Monday, September 10th, and we're coming to you live from the show floor at the SAP Business Objects User Conference. I'm Courtney Bjorlin. I'm one of the editorial directors for ASUG News. This morning, I'm thrilled to be joined by Pamela Kelley and Cecelia Collins. They work for Sisters of Mercy Health Systems, and they'll be talking to us about their dashboarding project. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
So Cecelia, start off by telling us a little bit about your user base and your user community and your company.
Sure. Mercy is a Catholic healthcare system. We serve people in the Midwest with over 400 hospitals and clinics. We have about 40,000 employees. We like to call them coworkers at Mercy. So more than 6,000 of those coworkers have been using Business Objects for almost 7 years.
Wow.
To report off of a variety of data sources. Some of them are very large. Some are very small. Some are large. The larger ones are, of course, the ERP and the clinical databases. The clinical database is the one that's really driving the innovation efforts at Mercy. It's growing at the rate of several terabytes a year. So we obviously consider that our big data database.
And when you're talking about clinical data, what do you mean? Data that doctors are taking from patients?
Correct.
And okay.
Right. All of the touch points. Anytime somebody goes to see a doctor or makes an appointment, or there's a surgery or any kind of procedure done, all of that data comes into the clinical data.
So you're all system. Electronic medical records,
Correct.
Everything.
Mm-hmm.
Great. That's very advanced.
An Epic customer now. So we've been on the Epic system for about 2 years.
Very, very interesting.
So some of the users that are looking at this clinical information include our coworkers at ROI. And ROI is a for-profit part of the company. They've been a leader in the supply chain industry. So they run Mercy's supply chain. And they actually led us to, one of their initiatives led us to install the latest Business Objects version. So we installed BO4 in order to let them experiment with some of the new dashboard features. And so that's essentially how we ended up here at the conference doing a presentation.
Great. And that presentation, Dashboard Decisions, you're going to talk about your BI4 installation. Tell me a little bit about the business case here, Pamela, and, walk me through the project a bit.
Well, like Cecelia mentioned, ROI is a supply chain division. I actually started working with ROI in January with the initiative to do a marketing piece, really, for ROI. We are starting to work with external members, and we needed an analytics package that we could sit down with new customers and show them that we had some analytics tools. At the same time, my boss put a little pressure on me to really develop something new because we were doing basically a bake-off between Business Objects, whether we were going to keep Business Objects in ROI and some of the other analytics tools out there. So the project really started off to be this marketing thing, but also with this underlying message that Business Objects might not last here. And we were successful with the initial dashboard, but so successful that they want all of the tools now. And so the project sort of took off, and we started with the dashboard design tool, and then very quickly moved into Explorer, and now we're working on mobile functionality and rolling it all out pretty much at the same time.
Wow, so you are really an advanced customer here. I mean, you're deploying a lot of tools. And I understand in order to sort of context those and their strengths and weaknesses, you employed a decision matrix in your project planning. Could you talk to me a little bit about that?
Certainly. As we've worked through the tools, one of the things that's happened is it's become very obvious that some of the tools have very specific user focus. And so there are certain questions that we started asking when we're talking to people, and we actually have just started using this. The dashboard functionality is the concept of using dashboards in the graphical design, and people don't really think in graphs yet, right? I mean, data is still very rows and columns, right? So when we started working through this, there were a lot of questions we needed to ask. So do you want your dashboard on mobile? Is that something that you're really looking at? Do you want the users to be able to drill down? And all these questions started coming up, and it really leads you in a direction of one tool or another. So the dashboard that I initially built on in the dashboard design tool Excelsius really is for executives, and it's what we call effortless navigation. It's very simple to use. There's not a whole lot of there's no direction or training needed for it. On the other hand, with Explorer, although it's very easy to use, there's a lot of drill functionality and a lot of people can quickly dig into deep level of analysis. And so there's that kind of stuff. Do you have a lot of data? If we're using electronic health records, it's quite possible that you're talking millions of rows for some simple metrics. And then the web intelligence tool, really, we have a lot of reports already built in it, so there's some neat new functionality with the graphs. They've brought in a lot of the graphing functionality, interactivity that makes it a viable option because of the mobile functionality. So.
Now with the dashboarding, Excelsius, you were able, what mobile device are you putting that on? You're able to get it on an iPad?
So we're not doing that on, we're not doing it on mobile.
Okay.
When we met with the number 3 guy in charge of the health system, and he looked at the dashboard and said, "This is awesome, I want it on mobile," I was like, oh, well, let's try something else. And so that's, I started looking at Explorer because Explorer was mobile functionality, and although Explorer is great, it's certainly not a marketing tool in the sense of it's for more self-service end users, and that's not really what we were looking for. So the mobile functionality in Webby, though, is great, and we've actually started working with that, and everybody's very excited about rendering the graphs that are on the Excelsius dashboard, now rendering them on the mobile devices.
Great, great.
So.
And Pamela did a great job of pointing out the specific tools that you're using. Cecelia, could you just sort of go through some of the strengths and weaknesses? I mean, we've talked about one here with, Excelsius not really being able to be mobilized, but drill down a little bit for us.
Of the 3 tools that we're using, Excelsius and Explorer and Webby, one of the biggest advantages with Excelsius is that it gives you a very polished look. So if you're very concerned about your brand, and you don't want any toolbars at the top distracting the user, it's a great tool for that. It gives you a very polished look and feel. The biggest disadvantage with Excelsius seems to be the usability. It has some limits, so it's not easy to deploy on mobile right now. Users can't do anything but really print, so if you get to a certain view of the data, you can't save that and send it via email to somebody to share it. So it has some limitations that way. From the technical side, it's all on the developer and the data modeler. So it's a great tool for the admins because there's really no work for the administrators to do. It's easy to deploy and promote and support from that aspect. Explorer, the biggest advantage is that you have a nice polished look, and you can go through a lot of records. So it's great for the analyst who want to spot trends, and it also gives you a nice look and feel. The templates make it easy for the developers. They don't have to think about the layout, and it's a great tool actually for prototyping. As Pamela said, people aren't used to looking at data in visual terms.
Right.
So it can be a good shortcut and a great way to see what your data will look like if you build a dashboard. One of the biggest disadvantages is probably all of the admin overhead that goes with it. You have to have a dedicated server, a lot more pieces to install and monitor. But it's a great tool for the analyst. And Webby is a great middle ground to start with. It doesn't give you the polished look and feel, but if you have really complicated measures and you already have a lot of Webby reports, it's very short development time to get a dashboard up. And the new functionality that they've added with the ability to link objects and combine that with input controls, you can get a really nice interactive look and feel to it.
And any weaknesses for Webby?
Oh, for the weaknesses for Webby, I would say you can't get rid of all the toolbars at the top, so it's not quite as polished, and it's a bit more difficult to get a branded look. You know, you have to build a custom color palette, for example.
Okay.
You have to make some modifications there to give it that branded look. So.
Well, that's some great advice. And for anyone that would like to hear more about this particular project and their advice, their session will be held on Wednesday at 2:45. It's in Oceanic 5, and it's called Dashboard Decisions. Thank you so much for joining us in the studio, and have a great rest of the conference.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can check out all our coverage on asugonline.com, and also please check out our YouTube channel, and that's ASUG TV. Thanks for watching.
Great job, guys.